I have had a video in my watch later for the most longest of time. It is called the most vile villain ever in anime and manga. Now, I am very interested. Wait. Okay. It's not who I thought. Okay. I watched another video. Where it was he was talking about Griffith, and I was hoping this was another video about Griffith. I love Berserk, but I can't take any more Griffith stuff. So hopefully this is a video that is different. But this is the most vile villain in anime and manga by the Masked Man. Probably, don't know why I'm not subscribed. My favorite anime YouTuber. This guy is absolutely goated when it comes to his videos. I've reacted to him in the past. I'm going to probably keep reacting to him because the guy knows what he is talking about. But that's what we got going here today, guys. Let's get right into it.
I want you to imagine for a moment that you were abducted as a child. You were thrown into a human-sized container and lowered with someone else in the container next to you. Once you both hit bottom, both containers are raised rapidly. You see the person next to you take on a different appearance, but you, on the other hand, decompose painfully. You scream, it hurts over and over as your flesh melts on your bones.
Bro, don't tempt me with a good time. What are we talking about here? We're talking about me getting turned into a fleshy lump of goopity-gock? This sounds amazing. What are we talking about?
You become a puddle of skin and organs, writhing in pain, but still alive. Now imagine if I told you that doesn't even come close to capturing the full image of the person responsible for this. There are a few candidates worthy of the title of most vile villain in anime and manga. Shout out to Mullet Man for giving the blessing for the video, but those candidates would be Shiro from Blade of the Immortal, Kakihara from Ichi the Killer, Seiko from Blood on the Tracks, and of course Griffith from Berserk.
But I mean, Griffith is definitely up there. I mean, Griffith definitely was like, I am going to do very naughty things that are not consensual while you're stuck there with your arm in a monster's mouth. He is a vile monster. Griffith, I want you dead.
I want to delve into this idea of vile, however, since it's an interesting thought on why we see characters like these as the most vile, instead of ones that from a number standpoint have done a lot more damage in their respective worlds. For example, someone like Frieza from Dragon Ball or any other mass-murdering maniac. Why do we see certain villains in a far more negative light than others, despite the damage they do being relatively less? A book I read called
This is Dead Zone Rogue, an upcoming FPS roguelike set in space with a little bit of a horror.
Yeah, dude, you know what I hear when I hear roguelike? The game is trash and I don't want to play it. I know that was an ad that just popped in because I don't have ad blockers or whatever, but dude, roguelikes, garbage, trash. I see roguelike, I shove it off into the Shadow Realm because I will never play it because you're garbage.
Anatomy of Evil, written by Michael H. Stone, gives an interesting point on what causes us to have a visceral reaction to certain things. Very early on in the book, he gives an example of a case where a man under the influence of drugs shot 3 people. 2 lived and 1 died, but one of the survivors had been blinded in both eyes and had just gotten married last week. The jury showed a strong reaction to what happened to the blinded man, even more than the man who had actually been killed. Why is that? In the previous paragraph, the book says, quote, "Ironically, certain crimes amounting to less murder will be experienced as more clearly evil than murder itself, because of the suffering involved, coupled with our very human tendency to identify with the victim and to imagine how the crime would have affected us had we been the victim."
There is also a thing where, like, this is like a discussion that blind people have about if you're born blind, it's like, you never knew. So your life is set. You don't even think about what things look like. You don't really like worry about it because you are living in this life. This is your way. But it's much harder on people who had sight and then lose it because now they've had something exponentially important to everyday living taken away from them. Just eat it out of their existence. And people can empathize with that. I mean, it's like, dying's bad, but it's the effect of all you're having that empathy, you're having that little like wooey I feel bad moment, and that shit sucks. And you can have that appeal, especially when you're looking directly at the person, because during the trial, you know they're gonna wheel him out there and they're gonna be like, look how his face is fucked up. He used to have such a pretty face. He had the best face until they took his face. All the Haitians took his face. The Haitians had nothing to do with this. I just wanted to do a Trump voice. You're welcome.
I think this portion is very telling of how we perceive stories told to us, like if we were a jury judging these characters. Hence why characters that from a pure numbers view are more evil, we don't really throw them up there when talking about vile. I seriously doubt any of us cringed physically when Planet Vegeta was being blown to smithereens. The names I listed earlier, on the other hand, are seen as some of the most disgusting and incomprehensibly evil individuals. I would like to talk about who I think could be the most vile villain in anime and manga, despite only being around for 10 chapters in the manga, or in anime form, 1 film. Bondrewd, the Sovereign of the Dawn from Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss is an ongoing series that started in 2012 and suffers from hiatus, and so it seems to have a low chapter count at 67, but each chapter I think is very efficient in moving the story forward. I bring this up because despite only being around in present time for 9 to 10 chapters, technically starting at chapter 29, the story does a really good job of getting the most out of his peculiar personality and horrendous actions. Bondrewd is mentioned back in chapter 15 as one of the White Whistles, individuals known to be the best cave raiders, people who traverse the extremely dangerous layers of the abyss. The first White Whistle we meet is Ozen the Immovable, someone of supreme strength and a horrifyingly cold and blunt personality who explains the dangers of traversing the lower layers to Reg and Rico, the 2 primary characters of the story. She is stated to be unrivaled in physical strength amongst the White Whistles, and given what we know of her, it is safe to say her words carry weight and credibility. This is important for context because as she lists the dangers of the abyss and the White Whistles who are in the lower layers, she singles out Bondrewd. Even so, you should do your best not to stay in the 5th layer for long. Reg asks why that is, and Ozen responds so that you don't bump into any of the other White Whistles. The depth's 5th layer, the Sea of Corpses, is as deep as humans can—
The Sea of Corpses. That, well, where are you going? I'm just gonna go on a little sabbatical. I'm gonna go on a little, what do they call it over in Queensland? Oh, I'm going on a little rompity-romp, squiggly wiggly over to have a little bit of a vacation. I'm going on a holiday. And where would you be going? Oh, the Sea of Corpses. Sounds like a wonderful place. Lots of joy and happiness down there.
can go and return alive. I suppose some of them are there. Those who are down in the abyss right now are the Sovereign of Guidance, Wakuna the Chosen, the Sovereign of Mystery, Shraja the Mysterious, the Sovereign of Dawn, Bondrewd the Novel. Among them, Bondrewd in particular is an out-and-out scoundrel. He's not kind like I am, so you better be careful. Mind you, at this point, this is coming from the character that just beat Reg damn near within an inch of his life to prove a point. It's always an effective thing to have other characters speak on an antagonist and build up the reputation of that character, and then we see said antagonists confirm the fears through their actions. If the character is pompous and full of themselves, then it's no surprise if the villain sort of hypes themselves up, but when trying to build up a character that isn't going to be present for a bit, I really do think it's a simple but powerful method of adding weight to that character. Ozen, being the communicator of said information, isn't shown to be a dishonest individual. If anything, she can be faulted for being too honest. But in this context, she has seen the terrors of—
Dude, this is a thing. A lot of people are like, well, that's too honest. They're too honest. I don't care, dude. Just give me that brutal honesty. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. I'd rather have somebody be like, oh, yeah, dude, I don't like you. And I'll be like, understandable. Why don't you like me? Well, these reasons. All right, that's fair enough. Instead of just like beating around the bush, beating around the dick and stuff, I just don't like that, dude. Just give me the nitty gritty, bro. I'm gonna trust you way more if you're always telling me exactly what you think. If you're just like, I'm not a mind reader, I can't read through your fucking weird niceties. Just tell me the shit. Just speak your nonsense, bro, and I'm gonna respect you way more.
The abyss and has been affected by it, and is now warning these two who want to venture into its depths. I didn't catch this at first, but since it's one of the only descriptions we get of Bondrewd before meeting him, I looked into the definition of scoundrel since I believe that word was used intentionally, at least in translation. A dishonest and unscrupulous person, a rogue, and unscrupulous is defined as having or showing no moral principles, not honest or fair. In retrospect, scoundrel is without a doubt the perfect word to describe Bondrewd, someone who you cannot let your guard down around, an untrustworthy individual who has no conscience, is unethical, immoral, or the more appropriate word would actually be amoral. This is the portrait painted to us about Bondrewd, and how foreign parents describe their children when they grow their hair out. I do have a bad habit when it comes to overdoing the intros of these videos. I don't know if there's something that can help with that, but I do know of something that can help with other bad habits you might have, as well as help me justify the amount of time and money I put into the new channel aesthetic.
Bro,
the next time we get a—
Bro, just jump. If you want his thing, go to his thing and get his thing. It's gonna be like boner pills or something. I don't know. I don't need to listen to the ad. If you guys want me to listen to more ads, I will, but I'm not going to.
The next time we get a look into Bondrewd is through the perspective of Nanachi, the third primary character of the story who clearly has ties to Bondrewd, a flashback scene where he praises her for the new cart.
I'm loving the aesthetic and the art design of this. I think it goes so freaking hard. This is gorgeous. I love that it's got like two child's hands hanging from his neck. He just is like the perfectly designed villain. The kid that to have that counteraction with the like childlike weird amalgamations of what like these creatures are. They kind of look like kids, but you can tell that they're different. They're different and very of this world. I love this. I need to check this out. I've never heard of this before. I've never like gone down the rabbit hole of watching this, so this is all new to me and I'm enjoying the fuck out of it. I am getting like covered in all of its juices and I loved every instance and moment of it.
And tells her to smile since the experiment was a success. So despite him again really only being around and active for 10 chapters, he's given a healthy amount of build-up.
From the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor.
Dude, this is what he needed, and he would have been a good guy. If he would have gotten himself one of these cordless, battery-operated mowers, he would have been not a goon monster.
Directly responsible for the most infamous scene in the entire series. Really one of the most unsettling and brutal scenes in anime as a whole. During this flashback scene, we see how Nanachi went from a normal girl to having the form she does now, as Bondrewd took a bunch of children to use as experiments.
Bro, anytime you see somebody who's experimenting on kids, that is bad. That is big bad. I'm gonna make a strong stance that if you're taking kids and throwing them into tubes and having them melted into amalgamations of creatures, not a good thing to do. Not a real cash money individual, if you know what I mean.
Brave children who do not falter even at the prospect of setting foot inside the chasm, please take a step forward. From there, we see what his base of operations looks like, and how Nanachi and Midi, another girl that was taken in by Bondrewd, become close friends. Midi is taken to be experimented on, and this is where we overhear a conversation between Bondrewd and one of his assistants, since Nanachi is trying to follow where Midi was taken. He is reprimanded for bringing children who will never be able to return, and that from a humanitarian perspective, this is just wrong. Bondrewd is quick to respond and says there's no need to worry since he's not making use of them as humans. Nanachi is also captured and placed in a large container next to Midi, and that's when we get to see Bondrewd's motive. The 6 layers curse, death or loss of one's humanity. I'd sure like to do something about it. Those chambers you are in are capable of forcing the curse all to one side. Attempts that paired a person with something besides a fellow human didn't go well. However, Nanachi just happened to come join us. I regret having to use 2 adorable little beings such as yourselves, but as you two were such close friends.
You're pretty adorable. We knew you're really cute. But listen, I'm going to have to turn one of you into a puddle of guts and bones. I don't like it. You don't like it. It's sometimes you gotta make sacrifices. You gotta make sacrifices for the greater good. And you know what? Sometimes the greater good requires me melting one kid down and making one kid a super being. It just happens. Shit has to go that way sometimes. We gotta melt some kids.
Friends, I'm sure this shall be a success. Midi says they were tricked, and Bondrewd tells them that thanks to all of them, the darkness shall be driven out of this chasm. They weren't tricked. And so he lowers both of them, and as the containers are then raised, Nanachi transforms, and Midi, well...
Bro, that looks like a tight weekend. Dude, when can I ride this at Universal, bro? I'm going to trick all of my enemies into getting into the side tube, and I'm just going to become like a werewolf. I'm going to become a really cool werewolf, and they're just going to be turned into a bucket of blood and guts. I'm not seriously wanting to put my enemies in a murder tube. Come on, guys, it's a joke. Oh, did I not put enough, jerk off reference. Now it's not a bad thing.
Made in Abyss is a series with some of the best world building ever mixed in with a disturbing presentation. It's like I would like to recommend this to the homies, but that ain't happening. And that ain't even getting into the stupid ass bonus pages the author puts in the manga, but that's nor here nor there. Midi isn't even given the liberty.
Burn it with fire. It's got child stuff. This is no longer worth watching. I'm sorry, guys. You were all interested. I was interested. And then he put lolly stuff out. The author likes lolly. Burn him with fire. I'm sorry. Like, this author obviously is a goon monster. He needs his hard drive checked.
Of death, but instead is near impossible to kill and is now forced to live and suffer as this thing crawling around on the ground. With Nanachi now hoping Red can put an end to her suffering.
Bro, I thought it died, but it's just like, It's a slit of teeth and claws, bro. What the? It turned into like an ugly. You know when a kid loves a toy for a long time and it keeps getting sewn together? That's what this fucking monstrosity looks like, dude. That's hella sad.
In a heartbreaking scene when Mitty is finally put out of her misery, we see Bondrewd see Mitty's life signal turn off and congratulates as well as thanks Nanachi for getting it done. For a brief moment we get a glimpse of the other aspect of Bondrewd that makes him terrifying beyond just seeming to be 10 steps ahead and morally reprehensible for science. At this point in the story, Bondrewd does seem to fall under the typical mad scientist, someone willing to do wrong for the greater good and the progress of humanity, or himself, with no care for his subjects, but that would be a huge miss on what Bondrewd is as a whole and what makes him uniquely twisted. When the trio finally make it to the 5th layer, they encounter one of Bondrewd's Umbral Hands, a member of his cave raiding squad who tells them that the Sovereign of Dawn is awaiting their arrival. Upon arriving at the Edo front, Bondrewd's base for operations, they are greeted by a girl asking if they are Papa's guests. Nanachi warns Reg and Rico, however, to be very careful with what they say, to choose their words carefully and to provoke the others into talking, because information is power. A very appropriate saying given the situation, but also an apt description of Bondrewd. The conversation between the girl and the crew is interrupted when he finally enters the scene and presents himself.
Dude, they give him the Darth Vader walk. He's coming to mash mush some children. He's like, bring me some kids to throw in the tubes. I guess it's just another Tuesday. Time to murder some children. Children killing. How I love to kill some kids. Cool walk. I'm Darth Vader. Cool walk. I'm Darth Vader. This guy is just wildly cool.
Alongside his Umbral Hands. Bondrewd in the flesh.
In terms of design and like aesthetic, he's not cool in the fact that he kills kids. Come on now.
He once again congratulates Nanachi for putting Mitty out of her misery. And when I first read this in the manga, I read it with a sarcastic tone, sort of instigating, but the film really adds clarity to Bondrewd's personality, especially his sincerity. Oddly enough, as shit will start hitting the fan a lot, Bondrewd doesn't show sadness, doesn't seem to show any anger or resentment, or even display the sadistic pleasure one would associate with this type of mad scientist character. But if not, his tone is constantly upbeat, joyful, caring, and at no point do we see him with a different tone behind closed doors to indicate that isn't how he genuinely is. Because up to this point, one could write off Bondrewd as the typical crazy science man again, one who belittles those who do not understand his research and a goal for the greater good, but we are soon to see.
Dude, he's coming off at, I love those people that think they're smarter than everybody else and they just like belittle everyone around them and they're just happy. They're acting like you're the idiot and they're so happy with themselves and so smug. It reminds me of David Jaffe. Now, David Jaffe doesn't melt children down, but he is an elitist prick. And I hate elitism. I hate it so much. There's nothing that makes me more turned off with talking to somebody than if they act like they're better than everything you do because they know more. And it's like, if you think you know more than everybody else in the room, you're the biggest idiot.
Is because up to this point one could write off Bondrewd as the typical crazy science man again, one who belittles those who do not understand his research and a goal for the greater good, but we are soon to see that Bondrewd can't be as easily boxed in like that. A little bit of time passes and Reg and Nanachi are nowhere to be found, and Prushka saves Rico from climbing up the forbidden steps on her own. Rico asks Prushka what kind of person Bondrewd is in her eyes. Prushka responds with, "My papa's the best. He's always thinking of me." This is such a strange thing to hear given how the first scene we see Bondrewd in for an extended period of time is him showing no issue and sacrificing a little girl, but at the same time he is capable of raising a child who sees him.
Yeah, so he doesn't always murder kids, so sometimes he's like, you seem like a sad baby, I'm gonna raise you up right, you're gonna be the best of the babies, everybody's gonna like you, and you're gonna like me because I'm a good dad sometimes, but while you go play with your little toys and watch your Bluey, I'm gonna go melt a kid real quick. Is that cool with you? I think we're on the same page. I gotta go melt a child, you go watch Bluey.
As the best father she could have. But the next scene gives us a good look into Bondrewd and the way he sees things. We see that Nanachi is with Bondrewd and shows surprise at him having a daughter. He states their blood relationship is weak, but she is his daughter. When questioned about that, he elaborates further. Is what they call family restricted merely to those related by blood? I do not believe that to be so. Having souls that love each other is what makes people family. Blood just helps in that regard. Love. It's a matter of love, Nanachi. I'll get back to this. Nanachi agrees to help Bondrewd again as long as Reg and Rico aren't harmed, and Bondrewd apologizes saying it's too late. And then we see Reg being brutally experimented on as his arm...
Oh, dude, I knew it, dude. They're chilling, talking. His kid's over watching some fucking Bluey, and then they're like, well, remember that other kid you knew? Yeah, dude, I'm ripping out his pancreas right now, and I'm putting in some cyborg guns. Why? Tuesday. It's fucking Tuesday. What else do you think I'm gonna do? Cyborg guns and death. That's what I do. But I love her. She's watching Bluey. I'm just talking to you. We're just having a fucking little back and forth. You're like, oh no, my friend. Well, that fucking sucks, you fucking douchebag. I'm melting them in the other room. You didn't know I was melting them? That's fucking crazy, dog.
Arm is severed before being stopped by Nanachi, Prushka, and Rico. The scene where Reg gets experimented on is pretty bad in the manga, but it's even worse in the movie, although maybe not as bad as hearing Reg's name being said in the sub version.
The sub turns it into a rap song, dog. The sub turns it straight into like a Kendrick Lamar song, dude. It's Lil Wayne rhyming with the same word over and over again.
The group escapes for a moment and springs a trap on Bondrewd, having him and his Umbral hand surrounded by the deadliest monsters in the 5th layer. But then we get another description of Bondrewd when Reg asks how powerful he is. He is described as a monster. He was able to make an insane amount of progress, securing a base in the depths and getting rid of monsters that were fatal to explorers. But on the flip side, he used methods that were unheard of and without consulting others, and in a specific example, when plants and animals obstruct the way to securing a route, he burns them, without any regard for who or what might be in the area. The surrounding environment gets annihilated. Further, Bondrewd is described as a wanted criminal overseas, and that this person has encountered raiders touched by madness, but even Bondrewd is different from that. It was as if some strange, mysterious entity had donned a mask and was masquerading as a human. If there are indeed monsters in the netherworld, things like him would qualify. Reg believes he finally defeated Bondrewd. Prushka, watching it all go down and approach the dead body of her father, starts breaking down into tears.
Bro, Daddy, I can't watch Bluey while you murder kids anymore. No, I will never be able to enjoy it ever again. I'll watch Bluey and I'll just cry now. I used to like Bluey. Now I'll have to switch to Bear in the Big Blue House. What the fuck, dog?
The Umbral hand taking care of Prushka walks over and takes the helmet off the dead body and puts it on, revealing that he is in fact the real Bondrewd. More so that he is immortal, and all of the Umbral hands are Bondrewd. Leaving with Prushka, and immediately after, we see him marking her body ready to perform an experiment on her. So which one is it? Because everyone that knows of...
Bro, she cried and he's like, fucking, I don't deal with pussies around here, dog. I gotta experiment on you. I did love you, but then you cried like a little bitch. Now I'm gonna cut your fucking femur out.
Bondrewd describes him in the worst of ways. Meanwhile, Prushka describes him as a caring, loving father. One of these clearly seems to contradict the other, but the thing is they are both true. At least in Bondrewd's mind. To him, the inhumane experiment and practices aren't done with any ill will or malicious intent. He sees suffering as a necessary part of the process. What matters is progress. So even if he is sawing you in half while you are still awake, if that contributes to the goal of conquering the abyss, then he sees it as an act of love. I might have used the word sadistic to describe Bondrewd in the past. His actions can certainly be seen that way, but he does not derive pleasure from bringing others pain. He derives happiness from accomplishing the goal. Even if the progress isn't made by himself, he is glad. He sees it as a mark.
This really reminds me of BioShock. I know I always take BioShock and shove it everywhere because I love BioShock, but it's kind of the same idea that the reason BioShock became what it is in the underwater city is because there was no stopping. There was nobody that put a line and say, this is wrong, you don't go over this line. They just kept pushing for scientific exploration. And I know that there's a bigger meaning to BioShock with libertarianism and everything, but one of the most important factors was the exploration of science and how if you don't have a stopping point because of moral objections, you can become an absolute monster.
Thing. Even if it's his own death that's being caused, he always remains with a constant politeness, and we never see otherwise. This isn't somebody who understands what they are doing wrong but allows the success to hush his guilt because he has no guilt at all. He doesn't show remorse or sorrow for his actions outside of apologizing to Nanachi for jumping the gun and experimenting on Reg. Bondrewd is, as I described earlier, seemingly completely amoral. Not a human being killing another with some sense of morality, but more so like an animal killing another for food. He is without any moral constraint or limitation, and this allows him to view his own actions of ones of love. There is a question, however. What about all of the other children we saw that were in Bondrewd's base? We are then shown a room full of cartridges we heard of earlier. Nanachi explains that the kids were experimented on and are turned into living, suffering, fleshy curse repellent and shoved into containers so that Bondrewd can explore the 6th layer of the abyss. A fight between Bondrewd and Reg breaks out again, and a huge explosion causes them to descend into the lower layer. We see a bunch of hollows crawling around, and Bondrewd begins naming them. Shako, Itan, Sumiko, Puel, they all have names, you see, as the hollows crawl onto Bondrewd.
Oh, damn.
This is what's left of the children who were experimented on like Mitty.
Bro, dude, they all look like gobbledygook machines, bro. This is gross. They're just squibbligs, bro. They're squibbligged all around, dude. And he's like, that's Jimmy, that's Hank. I just turned them into squibbligs because fucking why not, dude? I had too many PBRs, I was chilling, and I was like, I haven't made a squibblig recently, so let's get it done, dude. What the fuck?
When one of the cartridges runs out and the fight continues, he says, My, Resima is finished. She was one of my kind-hearted masterpieces. She dreamed of becoming a princess, you know. Isn't that cute? So not only does he remember each of his victims by name, but also their hopes and dreams, further showing
Jimmy was a piece of shit. Really hated Jimmy. I can't wait to use him as a squibblig machine. God, Jimmy sucked. I just kind of keep Jimmy around so I can walk by and just flip him off. Every time I walk by, I'm just like, fuck you, Jimmy. Fuck you, Jimmy, you piece of shit. You fucking annoying piece of shit. He cried so much in that tube. Do you not get how annoying it was? I don't show a lot of emotion. Mostly, I'm a chill guy. I'm a fucking chill guy. But I'm gonna let you know, Jimmy was a prick, bro, and he deserved to be turned into a mish-mish machine.
Knowing that he believes all that he is doing has been out of care. The fight continues, and all of the cartridges run out, giving Bondrewd a similar transformation to Nanachi, which he refers to as a blessing, because in his mind, a curse or a blessing might as well be the same thing. As the cartridges shoot out, he continues to name them one by one. Takiri, Terethia, Nopero. And the final cartridge shoots out, and Mania, Prushka's pet, runs out and licks the liquid spilling from the cartridge. Ah, it was truly a marvelous adventure, was it not, Prushka? To really drive the heartbreak of this moment further, we are given an extensive flashback into Bondrewd taking care of and raising Prushka, helping recover her mind from the harm of the abyss, giving her a name, and giving her Mania, and doing all he can to make sure she is okay and happy. In the flashback, he seems like an outstanding father, to the point that when she believes he was killed, she mourns for him, and even in her current state as fleshy fuel, she wishes to
Bro, that's so sad. I know that I made a lot of jokes about them being just smashed into fuel reserves and mashing up kids, and I made jokes about the kids being mashed up. But the fact that she can't even enjoy Bluey anymore, that she turned into a flesh machine to power his anus, it's not cool, dude. Big sad, big tears. Like, fucking yell one out for whatever this chick's name is, dude. Big sad, no more Bluey for her.
overcome anything together, only wishing to go on adventures together one day. This is what
well,
really...
I mean, they did go on an adventure together, so... Woo! Adventures with Daddy! But, Daddy used you as a fucking energy drink, so that's gross.
makes Bondrewd a unique type of evil, because oftentimes we hear that villains believe what they are doing is the right thing. That isn't always the case, but often for the morally gray antagonist it is so. Him using himself to further advance is an act of self-love. Him using someone else in the way he seems fit is an individual act of love regardless of the greater good. He is the so-called sovereign of the dawn, and so he has control over everything in his sight, and so he has no need to be held down by morality. As long as progress is being made, that's all that matters. Hell, even once he is defeated, he shows no qualms about it and simply states that now his aspiration is to see Reg, Rico, and Nanachi succeed. All in the name of progress. Prushka in her final moments then turns
I
into
was like, I know, I turned a lot of babies into machine puppets, into little goopity gaka 5-hour energies for my back. But hey, sometimes you roll the dice and you just don't catch the breaks, pal. You don't get the breaks, pal. So, I hope you guys do really good in your adventures, and I wish you the best. I'm going to die right here, though, if that's cool. I know you guys got some shit to do. You got to do your taxes or whatever. I'm just going to die here now. But big ups to you guys, homie.
to a white whistle for Rico to use, which could be argued as part of Bondrewd's plan all along. Considering that he always seemed to be a couple hundred steps ahead, I wouldn't put it past him. Still, one thing is to see your test subjects as nothing, and another is to derive a sick, twisted pleasure from their suffering, but it is an entirely different kind of twisted to see each of them as your beloved children, and that the one that you personally raised as your closest child, and yet you can still mutilate them and have them either live forever as a hollow, or live as fleshy fuel until they expire. It's incomprehensibly evil how someone could be capable of this. Now, is he worse than Griffith like I put in the thumbnail? It's debatable, but you clicked on the video and
I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think he might be. I mean, yeah, dude. No, he's definitely worse. He turned children into fucking flesh puppets and Energizer Bunny batteries. So, way worse. I mean, Griffith got his whole crew killed, but this guy's just been steadily perpetuating murdering children. This is like what Epstein's Island was doing after they utilized them to make Bill Clinton happy. This is like the worst of the worst. This is like shoot him with fire type energy. So I think this guy's a little worse.
watch, so once again, all in the name of progress. Someone who at some point might have had some sense of morality, although we're never really told that, but was lost throughout the transferring of his soul from one body to another. But how could someone have such a detached view of the horrors he commits on others and love, be it someone he just met or his own daughter? Well, as Bondrewd says, a prayer cannot be born from one who only knows of joy.
Whoa, based.
And once again, thank you to Fume.
Oh, that's so dark. What the fuck? This is such a good video. I really like this. Everything he does is fucking top notch. This guy's a top notch YouTuber.
For sponsoring today's video.
There you go. Look at the people who sponsored it. All big dick energy. Dude, what a journey we went on, boys and girls. What a fucking amazing video. This deserved all 1.5 million views. It deserved all of it, dude. This was glorious. This is absolutely insane. Insanely good. This is a top tier video. I was gonna do a little more tonight, but I think that's such a perfect one to end on. I think anybody who's watching this later and they're here right now with me, I want you to know we went on a journey together. We went on a journey of children being used as Energizer batteries. We went on a journey of pain and suffering, and you need to like and subscribe, baby.